This is 100 Days in Enshrouded. Do make sure you hit that subscribe button and help the channel out. If you want to see any of this gameplay live, you can check it out over at twitch.tv/thegreatdane. So obviously we had to start off by giving our character a name, and look at us, we've got a six-pack. Yes, I look like that in real life. Obviously, you know, I'm taller. I'm like 7'4", obviously. But we end up spawning in a weird, I don't even know what you would call it, but we end up in the Cinder Vault, and we start off, obviously we have to check out the controls before we commune with the flame. Obviously we're not too sure what this is, but this obviously means we are flameborn, we can talk to the flame. There's a lot of lore behind this. If you're into it, then you're not watching the right video. Anyway, we have a look at the map, we have a look at the journal, and even the skill tree. Look how, like, expansive this is. You can just create any sort of character you want, and I really enjoy that about this game. But anyway, we exit the Cinder Vault, we're exploring, we're looking around, we're picking stuff up, we're reading lore. You know, things are so interesting, but look how good this looks. It is a beautiful game. It's a shame that we are half naked. I do think there, should we jump? But you know, I thought, no, let's not do it. Let's not try and die straight away. Because you know me, if you've watched any of my videos before, we don't die. We never die. I am so good at games that I, you know, have made it so I can never die in a game. But as you can see, we're exploring through this cave. We even found a secret little chest, as well as these explosive balls. And as you can see, there's a lot of environment in this game that you can actually explode and change and terraform to make it your own. But that also means there's a lot of hidden rooms, hidden chests, hidden, you know, random items, and they're always good to find. And we actually find our first proper weapon. I mean, the torch is good. We can smack people up with it, but we don't want to keep using the torch as a melee weapon for long. And as you can see, we've entered the Shroud here. The timer at the top is how long we can spend in the Shroud before we die. And pretty much that's just the Shroud's taken over the world. Certain areas, you know, have Shrouds, some don't. And some have, you know, harder Shrouds where you need to be a higher level to deal with. And it's sort of how it, you know, stops you from going to endgame straight away and getting destroyed. Anyway, we enter this abandoned camp and we have a look round, and we're just grabbing everything we see. Obviously, you know me, I'm a loot goblin. We're going to gobble up all that loot, as well as find a few rats, and then there's another shrouded area. Obviously, so these are sort of the enemies you see in the shrouded area. There isn't much of a variety so far. Obviously, the game is not fully released. You know, we've only got half the map, you know, open to us. So there is, you know, potential for there to be, you know, 2, 3, maybe even 400 days in this game. But after a long day of exploring, we sit by the fire and cook some food before getting some water from the well, because obviously we need water to increase our stamina and make sure that we are good. It's a bit like Valheim with the food. If you eat different types of food, your health will go up, and it'll increase to more, it'll decrease to less. So you've sort of got to have a variety, but you've also got to have a decent amount. So as you can see, we put down our first flame altar, and that means we've now got our first base. So we commune with the flame, we talk to it, and we let it know what we've done, and it gives us a bit of advice, blah blah blah. I was reading this at first, and then after a while I was like, I'm just going to ignore it. I ain't that bothered. As long as I know what I'm doing, we're fine. But either way, pretty much this is going to be my base location for the start of the game. And with that, then I can expand that, but I can also improve my level, you know, so I can get to harder areas with that flame altar. But obviously we had to go gather some resources, as well as explore around the local area to make sure we didn't have many threats near our new home. Because obviously I want to feel safe at night when I'm just chilling by the fire, you know, a few marshmallows over the fire. I don't want these weird creatures coming out. But anyway, we build a workbench and we have a look what we can make. So we have a look through and we decide to make a pickaxe. And we start off with a pickaxe because, you know what, we need stone. And for some reason I was getting dirt from this rock, and then I finally started getting stone as it sort of went small, which made 0 sense. But then I tried chopping down a tree with my hatchet that actually didn't work. I needed the actual axe. So then we end up making the axe so we can chop down the trees. So, you know, we can progress even further. We do make the construction hammer at this point because I weren't too sure what it actually was for. You know, if I was going to be able to construct, like, you know, pre-made buildings, but that isn't part of the game. The game is more, you know, you can build what you want, how you want, as long as it's, you know, in reason. And then before you know it, night is falling upon us, but my inventory is getting full. So we make ourselves a chest so we can put all our new stuff in there, because, you know, a full inventory is never nice. The controls were a little bit janky with the inventory. Obviously, I've been playing Palworld a lot lately, so I'm kind of used to that. And ignore this. This is not the first death. This is, this is in your head. It's all in your head. You're being gaslit right now. But other from, you know, a few little bugs, you know, there, and sort of the combat being a little bit difficult to get used to, and the UI, the game overall is fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and I do recommend it to yourselves. You know, it's one of them games where you find yourself hours later still playing without realising, and sort of you can build your character however you want, and you'll end up, you know, having fun either way. But anyway, as you can see, we decided to give ourselves some new armour. We wanted to look fresh. What if we came across a young, abled warrior who was like, I ain't going around with a naked bloke. Didn't think about that, did ya? Big brains. But also, if there's any women, you know, we want to look good. We want that fresh drip. You know, this is supreme drip. Anyway, we decide to go out on a little bit of an adventure, and we come across this bridge, and we can't get across there without a grappling hook. So obviously now we know grappling hooks are going to be a thing in this game, and I'm going to feel like Batman, and that's what everybody wants. But anyway, we carry on progressing a little bit further, and we entered the Shrouded area, and it's telling us if we stay on the path, that will be our safest bet. And obviously we're still coming across enemies even in this, you know, pathed area, so it lied to us. It wants you to get the smoke. But we found our first ring. I mean, it's pretty basic. Everyone gets it. But it is still good to have. We want to find some good loot because we are loot goblins. Then we're coming across all these funky caves. We're climbing all this crazy stuff. I mean, the game is fun. We're learning all these new mechanics. And I feel like this is definitely a fun way for it to teach you instead of it throwing you into like a tutorial area. These are the games where I like, where you get to learn on the go. We ended up killing this bloke on the bridge because he wanted to smoke, and then we tried sneaking up to someone else. But we don't have the sneak attack just yet, and these people do hit hard. And obviously, I'm wearing cloth. I'm barely wearing out, and I've not even got a good weapon, and I'm just trying to run away. I'm trying to eat some food to get some health back, and it's not working. But we managed to kill this person as well as killing like a swarm of bees, because for some reason the bees are after me. I don't know if they were on his side, if he can control bees. That's kind of cool. It's like a shit version of Ant-Man. But it's still kind of cool. But we had a few enemies to deal with, but also there was loot round here, so we have to make sure we loot before we kill the rest of the enemies, and we actually save our first survivor. So the main, you know, process of this game is we get to go round and awaken survivors, and as you can see, this survivor is a blacksmith, meaning now we have access to him. We can summon him in our base, and we have access to the blacksmith. As well, you know, there's going to be more as the game progresses, and these means that you don't actually have to, you know, have, say, the workbench that can craft everything for you. You can go to the blacksmith who can craft other stuff, and you can go to someone else who'll be able to craft other stuff. So you kind of get it. But obviously we summon him in our base, we make a sword with him, and then we make a charcoal kiln. Because obviously charcoal, we feel like this is probably going to be useful in the future, and we see it doesn't take much, just dirt and wood logs. And we have quite a few wood logs, and we've got dirt from hitting the ground not so long ago. We then speak to the blacksmith, and he's saying he needs a shop. You know, he can't work in an open field. And we're like, yeah, we'll do that. I'm not really that bothered, mate. I'm going to build you the most basic thing. But then he tells us about a glider, and we're like, yes, we need that. And we come across this rough flintstone, and then we build a grappling hook, you know, and then we build a wand. Things are going great. Wands in this game are so overpowered. I mean, but look how good the grappling hooks are. I actually do like the way the grappling hooks work and the glider works. But when you see the glider gameplay, you'll notice why. But anyway, these wands become quite overpowered. I did not know the wands were going to be as good as they are. And I started the game off thinking, you know what, I'm going to go for like a strength build. I'm going to be, you know, a sword, maybe a shield, and go a bit tanky. But as the game progressed and I got my hand on magic, I was like, you know what, I'm going to be like a battle mage. And I'm going to, you know, I'm going to be fucking doing spells. Wingardium Leviosa, you're fucking off. So at this point, we've arrived at an elixir well. And outside we were greeted by quite a lot of enemies, and as you can see, once we dealt with them, we came across a big glowing orb that told us if you died you were going to respawn here. We weren't, but you know, worried at all. We don't die. I mean, do you know who I am? I am unkillable in any game. But this elixir well led to a weird looking cave where we had a fell thunderbrute to deal with. I was a bit worried at first. I thought, I see a health bar, this is not good, but look how easy he is to kill with this wand. Can't get near me. I'm not even scared. I mean, he does some mad attacks, but overall, I think I took like maybe 1 or 2 hits from him the whole fight. easy work. One of the easiest things. Don't get me wrong, it gets a lot harder as the game progresses. But as you can see, the shroud root is there and it needs chopping down. We chop this down and we get a skill point. Things are good. And it also cleared up the whole area of the shroud. And then we decide to, mine around the area and see what this is. And we're getting mycelium. And we don't really have any use for it at this moment, or even a bit later on. But, it's still good to have in case, we come across a use. We then fast travel back home and talk to the flame. We commune with it and it tells us about some other stuff, but then we think, you know what, let's actually use our skill points. And then we decide to upgrade the altar with a shroud core that we got from killing that boss. And then we build the glider. I was excited for this. I love the glider. But anyway, we looked on a map and saw the next mission. We decided to mark it before building a new chest just to store all the stuff we found. At this point, I didn't know you could salvage your weapons to get like runes, which then you use to spend to upgrade your weapons, but I do learn it. So if you're watching this and you do know about this game and you're thinking, absolute noob, what are you doing? I do learn. But anyway, on the journey to our next mission, we come across this little, like abandoned building with a few enemies, and we decide to take them out. I mean, our new jump attack ability is overpowered. It is great. It is feeling great. The wand, the sword, together works out really well, and it is making combat a lot more fun. We then decide to give our new glider a go, and I think you can understand why I enjoy the glider in this game. It feels really well done. But anyway, we land at this cave where there's a bunch of flintstone, and still, I'm not going to lie, 100 days in, I've not even really used flintstone for anything, so I don't know if it's going to be more useful in the future, but right now it's not. Anyway, we land at this camp called Rookmore, and there's a bunch of enemies. Only level 3 though, they're still higher than us, but we are strong, and we know how to fight. Come across this wall with explosives and you decide to blow it up. Because why not? Fuck the wall. It's just what we do. We then explore a bit more and come across a few rats. Get a chest. We get some magic in it. But obviously we do not have a staff on us at this point. But in the future we'll be able to use the staff and use the magical charges to make magic spells. As you can see, the blue bar in the top left is our mana bar. Then we find an improved wand and things are looking good. We have a few enemies to deal with, but our new wand is doing the work. We're able to take these enemies out with ease, and to be fair, it wasn't really too difficult after that. I mean, yeah, they blocked a bit, but all you have to do, a few hits with a sword, do a roll backwards, and then use the wand. But we quite easily clear out this whole camp of enemies. I mean, there is quite a few of them, but at the end of the day, we're still getting a good amount of XP for everything we kill, as well as good loot from them. So we return back to this wall to finish the job, because it just weren't done good enough. But anyway, we found another abandoned building, and for the first time, we're actually able to use a lockpick. And I was hoping for maybe like a Skyrim minigame where we have to, like, open the locks, but nothing that good. And I mean, there was an alright weapon inside, but we decided to fast travel home because it was quite disappointing. On returning home, we decide to build a forge for the blacksmith. And obviously, we're the one that's got to do the stuff, but with this we can make metal sheets, and with the metal sheets we can make better armour. And obviously at the moment we are quite weak, obviously a few hits and we're nearly dead. Then we decide to actually look into the missions, and we're going to make him a blacksmith shop, if you can call it that. So we decide to chop down some trees so we can make enough material so we can actually build it, because how the blocks work, you can make little 1x1 blocks, or you can make the bigger squares, but they require more than just one wood, requiring 200 odd nearly. So we decide just to make a small little house, because he doesn't need anything big. I mean, he don't mean out to me. And yeah, you can live in this. I mean, he's not even going to have a light in here. It's going to be dark. You don't deserve a door yet. But we place him in his new home, and he is rather happy. To him, he feels like he's in a mansion, and that's kind of sad. But do I care? No. And then, oh my god, nothing happens. I don't die by falling twice. This is embarrassing. This is how I die more than out, because the stamina, I misjudged it, and this is how I died more than, I didn't even die that much in combat. I died more in this game by falling, or running out of stamina, or going in places I shouldn't be. And that is my own fault, yes, but I feel like I'm a victim here. Anyway, we stumble across another enemy camp and deal with them pussy-os before we come across an ancient spire. And we actually hit level 3 just from exploring here, and you get quite a lot of experience. And pretty much with this spire, you've got to work your way to the top of it by making your way through I don't know if you can call it a maze, in a way. You've just got to, make your way through, and there's different floors and buttons to open up doors. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but it's okay. Obviously, there is loot throughout this and breakable stuff, and we're finding alright stuff. Again, nothing crazy, but it's a fun thing to do. It could be worse. But obviously, once we make it through here, we do reach the top, and at the top, there's another flame that we can commune with, and it also unlocks a fast travel point for us. And this is sort of central to the bottom of the map right now, and we can actually glide from the top of it. And I don't learn that until a little bit further in, and all this time I'd been fast traveling to the top of it, going to the bottom, and then walking, when I could have just jumped off and travelled a big distance rather quick. These buttons that we're pressing do actually become quite, a common thing in the future. There's a lot of caves you go to, a lot of things where you end up having to press multiple buttons multiple times, or, to open up different doors and work your way through. So it is sort of a trend that they've been following. But I did say I really did enjoy this game, and I'm probably going to do a 200 days on this, even if the video flops, just out of pure enjoyment. Not only, have I had fun streaming it and playing it, I've also had fun with people coming in and not backseat gaming, but giving me, little bits of advice on how to make the game a little bit easier, or, how to play the game the proper way without having to struggle and, not knowing what to do, because it's sort of a game that sort of just throws you in and doesn't give you the most amount of information, and you've kind of got to learn on the go. But anyway, we get to the top of the tower, we commune with the flame, and then we fast travel back home. And the flame is like an annoying girlfriend, always wanting to talk to me, like, just leave me alone. I then decide to build another chest. I'm running out of room big time, so we build a little tiny chest. Obviously, it's not as good as the bigger ones, but we don't have the most materials. And then we decide to look at our missions again and see that we can now actually save a hunter and save an alchemist. And both, again, are going to be useful. But we decide we'll fast travel to the tower and go do another elixir well. And obviously at this point I didn't realise you can obviously just jump off the tower. And I thought about it, but thought, I don't want to die. Forgot about my glider. But obviously we can jump down here, go straight to the elixir well and get this complete. This one was a little bit more difficult than the first one, but nothing too crazy. But we made sure to activate the big ball at the front so we respawn there if we did die inside. Lucky enough, there's not really too much of a bad effect from dying. You just sort of drop some items and you have to go back and pick them up, but you don't lose anything. I don't even think you take like a massive amount of durability on any of your items, which is quite good, because for a game like this where dying can be quite consistent, you don't want to be always like losing durability or losing items. But as you can see, this is really easy. I mean, this is probably the easiest thing I've done in this game. I mean, the enemies, one shot in, they can't even do any damage to me. They're so easy to deal with. But every elixir well I've done at this point seems to be pretty much the same thing. Go in, kill a few enemies, but this one's now got bugs, which are stupidly annoying because they don't leave you alone. But I have figured out a way to deal with them now. But still, they're annoying. But either way, you go in, you kill all the enemies, and you chop down the core. And it's the same thing every single time. And, hopefully in the future they do change that up a little bit, or, as I progress further into the game, I do find ones that are a little bit different. But, if they are the same, it's not the end of the world, because it's not something you're going to be doing, every 10 minutes. But as you can see, we got rid of all the enemies and decided to chop down the core. And we managed to get another skill point, and then we even found a nice little bow, but I don't use bows at all. Anyway, we go to our skill points and decide to get the sneak attack. That is quite overpowered every time I've used it. I mean, you one-shot anyone you sneak attack, so it's quite good if you've got a big group of enemies. As you can see, these bugs just don't leave you alone. Dead, again, because of these stupid bugs. They are so annoying. But anyway, I go back in, get my stuff, and we leave, and we decide to carry on exploring. And obviously, because there's no more Shrouded here, we're able to actually fast travel, so things are still quite a lot easier. On arriving back home, we decide, you know what, we need to build sort of a house for ourselves. And at this point, I wasn't fully aware that you could move into, say, abandoned houses and sort of like renovate them, if you will, and make them your own. So I was like, I'll just build myself a big old square house and make it look nice. but I do abandon it and don't get it finished. So if you're thinking you're going to see this big building that I make, you're wrong. I'm moving to a cool house that I find in like a few days' time. But obviously it gets quite dark, so we need to build a torch. And we decide, let's build a wooden door for the blacksmith. You know, let's lock him in there so he knows that, you know, he isn't a free person. He's our slave. He'll make whatever I want, and he'll do what I say. We then proceed to make more rough wood blocks, just to try and expand the house a bit further, but we don't really, you know, do too much. I didn't want to make it too big and, you know, end up having to use, you know, thousands and thousands of blocks and it take days. But again, I still kind of regret even doing this in the first place. It was a complete waste of time. Anyway, we got a few metal sheets going and we just carried on with the walls, building the door frames, putting a few windows in and making the place look nice. I mean, the building is quite good in this game and it's easy enough to, you know, undo stuff and break them down. You get all the resources back, as well as, you know, even just like the way things like lock on, they're not too difficult. It isn't one where it locks onto different places or not what you wanted it to do. So I'd definitely say it's one of the better buildings in a game like this. A lot of games like this, the building isn't the greatest. They usually don't put much effort into this. But as you can see, we decided we need better armour. And we actually got a helmet. It turned us bold for a bit, but then boom, nice helmet, we get the chest, and we start to get the most of the armour done. And obviously, whilst we're waiting for things to smelt, we decide let's get some more wood for the house. And we actually get a skill that makes us do 30% more damage to the trees. So obviously we just do a bit more damage, so we chop them down quicker. Anyway, we get our metal sheets and we decide, you know what, we're gonna, you know, we need to get this armor soon. So I pretty much just speedrun getting it. I want to make sure I get it. I'm chucking stuff on. I'm making sure I've got all the string, everything we need, so we look fresh. As you can see, we finally discovered we could actually put a shield on and it didn't take up a slot. So now that we had a bit more of a protection, and then we, you know, decide, shall we have a second staircase? Nah, ain't good enough, let's have one. And we finish the walls and we start to get the ceiling built. And again, this is pretty much as far as we went with it. We didn't go much further because I discovered like a nicer place which had, you know, decent resources, and all I had to do was just, you know, place down like a fire or two and a couple chests, and we were, you know, we were loving life. But anyway, you've still seen the building, you've seen it showcase. You know, I did try and build, but I just discovered better things. I mean, at least the effort's there, right? Obviously, there is a lot of decorations you can get, you know, a bit further in. Every character you get can sort of make decorations for you. You can have like chandeliers, carpets, you know, mad beds and all that, baths and stuff. So there is the access to make things look a lot better. So if you are a big in-depth builder, you could make something beautiful. Anyway, we decide it is time to get the hunter. So we fast travel to the spire. Obviously, we, you know, this time we jumped off. We were smart this time. And we made our way to the hunter. And we discovered this deadly shroud. And that's where we realise red shroud is bad. Don't go in there. If we go in there, we're going to die in seconds. But anyway, on the way to the hunter, we come across a building. And obviously, we've got to go in and explore. What if there is some good loot? And you know me. Loot goblin. We don't mess around. And obviously, we've got to break open all the jars. We're looking for good stuff. Obviously, if you don't like spiders, I would not recommend watching now, because a lot of little spiders run out of big spiders. Because I don't know how that makes sense, but it happens. And yeah, people don't like spiders. And they still put mad spiders into like every game that's ever made. Anyway, we finally reach where the hunter is being held. And we come across a new enemy type. And they're not the smartest. I mean, they look weird and the one doesn't do much damage to them. But all you got to do is kind of like move away from them and they just commit suicide anyway. So it's easy enough. And I mean, this isn't even just like it happens once, you know, it's over and done with. I mean, look at this. First one does it, then he goes and does it. Like, what is going on? Easy enough to kill them, but these are bloody mental. They look like Chewbacca with dwarfism. I do not know what's going on with this enemy type, but they are stupid. But we enter the vault and we come across these weird blue bulb traps that we have to try and get through and not get hit, and they're quite easy to do really, and you can just, once you get the double jump, you can just double jump over everything anyway. That's all I've done, you know, in the game. I just double jump and glide over any trap and you never end up getting hit. But to be fair, there wasn't really much in the vault, you know, to get to the hunter. Once you entered the vault, it was just, you know, easy enough to walk in and get the hunter. Anyway, we fast travel back, And we talk to the flame. The flame's, the usual, oh, the hunter's alive, yeah, amazing. We place her down in the small little hut, and she's just telling us random stuff. I mean, she gives us like a mission to find salt, which is, going to be useful because salt, again, you need it in the future, and you need it to preserve the fur and whatever. But again, it's nothing crazy. I mean, you'd expect, a better reward for, saving her. Anyway, we go back to the spire and we jump off and we find ourselves at a small flint mine. And here, not only obviously do we have flint, we also find some lore about some carpenter that we're going to run into in the future. So it's a bit pointless now, but in the future it sort of helps out. But obviously there's mines like this scattered all over the place, and you're able to find this material. But I think what is a shame is you can't throw down the explosive balls and pick up like the resources. You do actually have to mine. So you can't really like blow a big chunk up and pick everything up. You actually have to stand there and mine it, which I think really could be, done a different way. Anyway, we're into a shrouded area and we're finding a bunch of this shroud liquid. Again, going to be useful in the future. But we decided to head out and find a hidden tomb. These are just sort of like random side missions that you can just do. You don't get much from them other than maybe a random resource or, something daft. But they are fun to do and it's good to just explore. And I mean, I spent a lot of these days just sort of walking around doing random stuff because the day-night structure doesn't really mean too much in this game. I mean, before you know it, you would have spent a day or two just walking from one place to another because it does take a while, as well as, just exploring the area and just discovering what there is. As you can see, obviously, with our big exploring brains going on, we decide to jump off the cliff and land at the one across from us. And as we find, there is a nice little farmhouse going on. Bunch of buildings, we've got crops around, and we're looking at this place thinking, you know what, this is quite nice. And we decide, let's have a look round, make sure it's safe, get rid of all the rats that are in this place, any wolves, any, shrouded areas. And then this is going to be our new home. This is where we are going to build up this house and we're going to make it nice because, in the future, we're going to have multiple people living on the property. Not only have we already got the blacksmith and the hunter, we've got alchemists, we've got carpenters, we've got bloody magicians. The people are, countless. And also, we've got a bunch of stuff that needs crafting, as well as we need storage. There's going to be a lot. And, yeah, we can build a house, but why build a house when there's one already built? Yeah, there's, like, holes in the wall. But, I mean, I just put something in front of that. You won't even notice. But we explore through the house. I mean, we even go into the attic, looking around for any good loot. And, obviously, we find a few chests, but there is nothing crazy inside. We then make our way over to the fields and see that from harvesting all these crops, we get a lot of plant fibre. And a plant fibre, isn't always the easiest thing to come across. And anyway, we decide to place down a flame altar. So we now have a second home. And whilst exploring, we discover a chest. And inside, there is an epic wand. That thing looks very nice. But now that we've got the second flame altar put down, we're able to fast travel back and forth between them both. So we head back to our original home, empty our chest, and we actually discover this really cool button that does so much like easy work for us. I mean, it was so annoying dragging it back and forth. Oh, why didn't I realise this button was there earlier? Anyway, we travel back to the new home and think, you know what, let's explore around the area. Obviously, we want to get the alchemist, and he is quite close to here. But also, we want to make sure there's no threats near our new home because it was looking promising so far. Anyway, stumble across this church-looking building. There's a few enemies inside, a few books to read that do give us quest or quest objectives, so they're always good, and there is a shrouded area. And, I mean, it's nothing crazy. You open a door and you do get a reward. But again, I wouldn't really say it's, an amazing area. A lot of these rewards are something daft, like a bow. I don't think I use a bow once, really, in this game because the bow play just didn't seem that good. But again, you never know. You could open a chest up and find a legendary weapon in there, which is really good and, fits your style of play. So you do never know. So it is always worth looting everything. But look at this. We find a rooftop garden. How nice. I mean, the people that used to live here were probably, green thumbs and all that. Not me. I mean, I ain't going to do that. But once we searched this building, we carried on with our journey to go get the alchemist. And it wasn't long before we were at his vault. Obviously, there was a few enemies around. I believe these are just like other humans that are a bit weird that are inside. I mean, we've got wolves, but these people, are they human? I mean, they're a little bit pink, but I don't think that's anything crazy. But we hit level 4. That's always good. I mean, the leveling is kind of slow in this game. The max level so far is only 25. And then when they, release the second half of the map, they're going to up the level to level 50. So you can only really explore half the map and, get halfway up on the levels. But anyway, enough yapping. Yap, yap, yap. That is all you've been hearing so far. Obviously, we want to know what's going on in the game and what I did in these 100 days. Obviously, we did a lot of killing. We're still killing, but we're going to rescue the alchemist soon. Obviously, at this point, we had a few, enemies to deal with because there's enemies all over the place. And I mean, obviously, we're not going to die out. I mean, look at that's not even my fault. That is just, very unlucky. But we've managed to get up there and get rid of that enemy who made us look a mug. And we actually used our sneak attack for the first time. And I mean, look at that. One easy shot and they are done with. So our sneak attack is going to come in useful when we're sneaking about. But we deal with the rest of the enemies, do another sneak attack before we rescue the alchemist. I mean, he is ready to go. He wants out of there. Balthazar, what a name, I love it. But anyway, we collect him and then we see that there's a cool chest on there and we think we can glide to it. Be something good. It's another fucking bow. I mean, that's all we end up getting. But we do find this cool looking cave around the area. I looked at the map and saw, is there any other quests around here? And this was one of them. So we went here and we killed a few of the enemies. I mean, obviously it's annoying that you can't have a light whilst fighting without having to use the torch. But the torch just isn't strong. But anyway, we deal with these enemies and we make our way into the cave for some good loot. I believe there's something like, it was like some weird stash it was called, but the wailing blade, I mean, look at it. It's a thing of beauty. If I had that in real life, no one would mess with me. And whilst we were exploring the area, we found an ancient obelisk. Obelisk. This game doesn't name anything easy for me to say. I mean, why have I got to try and say these mad words? But anyway, we head back home because we've done enough exploring for the day and we need to place the alchemist in our nice little home. But first, obviously, we've got to commune with the flame and listen to whatever it's going to say. Like, we don't care. Let's just get him put down and carry on. But anyway, the blacksmith's like, oh, wailing blade? Yeah, I made that. But you can also upgrade it. So I upgrade it to max, as well as upgrading the wand. So obviously we want to make sure they're as powerful as possible. We get the alchemist down and we speak to him about spells and staffs. And he says to us, you should make yourself a staff. But obviously we have to look what he's got first. And we can see that obviously we can actually make spells through him. And we actually are able to make a staff through him. So then we can actually use the spells, because right now we're not really using the spells for anything. But anyway, we place down a grinding stone and make a shroud core, and with this we're actually able to expand the area that our base is in our second home. And obviously we want to upgrade the altar just so it covers an 80 by 80 by 80 area, meaning it covers the full house as well as the little outhouse, and it covers like the little farm area. We then decide to place down a fireplace and just rest at it, get our bearings, relax. It's been a long time. Before we go home, make a staff, and we have a look around where we want to go next. We decide, let's start moving stuff into our new home. Let's place down a few chests. Obviously, we need, we need the storage. We have so much stuff. And then we decide, let's go look at this salt mine that we got told about. And I was not expecting it to be in the Shroud. But anyway, we found salt. I mean, it's okay. I think I mined like 50 salt just so I had enough to last me for a while, because I didn't want to be in the Shroud a lot. But now was the perfect time to actually give our staff a use and see if these magic spells are any good. And the fireball felt quite powerful. But my only concern was, our mana's not great, but also we're running out of stuff quite quick, like the actual spells. And whilst we were distracted looting around this area, we actually ended up in the Shroud a little bit too long, and we ended up dying. I could not find a way out. I was panicking. I was running around everywhere like, where do I go? There was no easy way out, so we did end up dying in like a random area. But it's okay, because we were able to get back nice and easily. But like I was saying about the magic spells, you are able to get eternal magic spells in the future, where ones that don't require like multiple charges, it's just one, but they do take up an inventory slot, so it's a little bit annoying. But anyway, I did find a way to get out of the shrouded area, and I was going to climb this tower to the top where there was no shroud, so we was able to fast travel out. But obviously we have to kill the enemies in the tower and, get all the loot, because we are a loot goblin, we don't mess about. We carried on making our way to the top of the tower, and obviously we found another chest with a good mace, but they're just heavy weapons, are quite slow for us, and we're not really looking for that. We're more after, a nice sword and a good wand, maybe even a better staff. Anyway, we go back to the spire and we decide to jump off and go looking for some sparks, because with these sparks we're able to level up our level that we're able to be in the shroud, so we can go into these red areas pretty much. It's the easiest way to explain it without using mad terminology that's in the game that makes no sense. Anyway, we stumble across the flame shrine and we collect it, and from that we do get a spark, meaning we're able to travel back home and actually strengthen the flame, meaning the areas that were red before we can now go to. But obviously we do need other materials. It's not as simple as just, putting in the spark and it being good. So we collect all the materials we need, we had them in our base anyway, and we leveled up our flame to level 2, meaning we did get a stat boost, as well as being able to go into different areas now, meaning we were just a little bit stronger. We then spoke to Balthazar and he told us about another person as well as eternal magic. Obviously that was going to be useful because we want eternal spells. And then he mentions mycelium and said, oh, you've got it, it's dangerous. Well, then why have I got it? I don't know. It makes zero sense. But anyway, we then speak to the hunter and she tells us about the farmer. So again, it's just opening up more quests for us. So we decide to go out and look for the carpenter. I mean, we do get a little bit distracted on the way, and I thought I was going to make this jump. Like, I should have made this jump, and it would have made the journey like 10 minutes quicker. I ain't talking like, 10 minutes is in like, it took about 10 minutes. I'm talking like, this was like a whole 10-minute detour just by missing that by a couple meters, because I had to go for the whole shroud and take the long way round, and it was so annoying. Anyway, we stumbled across a caravan camp. There was not really much there. There was like a mine that hadn't been mined, and a few enemies, a few tents, but nothing crazy. And again, stuff like this, just finding these locations can open up other quests and other areas for us, like points of interest on the map, which is kind of cool. We then stumbled across this other tower, which, kind of looked a bit cool, but again, I went in there thinking, I'm going to find some good loot, and there was nothing. We kind of got lost in the tower for a while, trying to be like, there's got to be another way up, but there just wasn't. So I don't think every building, obviously, is going to be full of loot or full of cool stuff. A lot of them are just going to be, random buildings that have just been demolished or, not fully put to use. But obviously we had to get rid of the enemies first, and they were quite easy to deal with. But anyway, we get to the next vault, ready for the carpenter. So obviously we made sure that ball was glowing, so it knew that we wanted to respawn there just in case we died. And obviously we're not going to die, we never die. We had a few enemies to deal with and they hit hard, but we had our spells and we could do some decent damage to them, even though our mana really did not last long. 1 or 2 spells and you were out of mana pretty much. But obviously, if you decide to go the mage sort of spec, you do get to increase that as you go on, and drinking water and that will help in the game. Whilst killing the enemies here, we actually do level up to level 5, which is quite good. So that means obviously we've now got more skill points, we're sat at 4, but it also just means, we feel a little bit stronger, our stats do go up. I mean, I do feel a little bit under-leveled knowing that we are killing level 7s and we are only just at level 5, but I don't really understand how the scaling works too much in this game. I sort of have not found an enemy yet that has been too hard to kill at my level. I've sort of been able to deal with any, at any level. But this was the first time we came across this weird flying woman-looking enemy that, don't get me wrong, did a lot of damage, but, once you sort of figured out the attacks, they were quite easy to deal with. I mean, the screaming wasn't the best, but, it is obviously a cool sound to know that you've gone and fucked her up that much, she's screaming about it. Anyway, we come up across this wall that needs blowing up, and lucky enough, we've got our explosive powder balls that are ready to get thrown in there. They're pretty much grenades. Like, we do kind of waste one, but you know what? There was probably an enemy there that needed blowing up. But we deal one of these screaming women, and then we get the carpenter. He's ready to go, and he also gives us a bunch of stuff we can make. So obviously, after we've, been to this location where, like, let's get out of here, we don't want to be in the shroud anymore. And then I discover this red stuff for the first time that's a bit like lava, but not. But you don't mess with. It, like, kills you instantly. And it is not the first time that you're going to see me die to it. I died to it more than I needed to. I feel like once is like enough. Any more after that, it's just embarrassing. And I fell into that so many times. It was just so annoying. And I feel like it's my fault. I feel like I'm just bad at these games. But as you can see, it's always good to just be out exploring. We're able to find different areas. And again, this is the Carpenter's camp. And we've just rescued the Carpenter. Reading this here is a whole nother lore page, meaning we've got other quests, or we might have already completed the quest just from finding that camp, and the Carpenter might set us up with another quest to even go to that camp. But now we don't need to figure out where it is, whatever. We actually know where it is already, so things are good. But obviously we do spend quite a while exploring at this point, and we do stumble across this cool bridge, and I was like making sure I had the stamina. I was like, I am not falling down and dying here. I need to make sure that I keep an eye on my stamina. And the thing is, the amount of times I'd forget and just not do it was like way too much. Anyway, we came across a flame sanctum, and these are good because obviously we can get the sparks from these, and obviously these are good for upgrading our flame level or whatever it is, meaning we can go to further areas. And obviously we had to empty our inventory before we could collect the spark, but that is good. Anyway, we get back home and we get the Carpenter summoned, and we speak to him, and he's got a bunch of quests for us and a bunch of things that we've already done. So we speak to him, and there's not too much about it, but it does give us a decent amount of XP. I mean, nothing crazy, but it's like 10 XP each conversation or something. And then we have a look what he can actually make, and he can make a kiln as well as an advanced glider. I mean, that thing, I really wanted that, and I didn't end up building it within the 100 days, and I wish I did. But anyway, Balthazar has some stuff to say to us, and he lost his mortar. So we think, we'll get it for you at some point. And as well then, the blacksmith, like, I've lost my equipment chest. Guess who has it? The Carpenter. He's been hiding it. Anyway, at this point we can get double jump, and that makes things more fun. Double jumping is the way forward. Everyone loves a good old double jump in a game. And then we actually have a look at our quest log and see we've got quite a lot of random stuff to do. Obviously, we've still got to get the Eternal Spell. We've got random tombs we can do, as well as other stories that we don't even really know about. So obviously, at this point, we're just sort of looking like, what are we fancying doing? Because there's just that many quests to do, we're not too sure. But we return to our new home and decide it's probably just best that we get some of this raw meat that we've collected cooked, so we've got, food for when we need it. It's always good to be rested because you do actually get a boost to your stats as well. And as you can see, we've got a comfort level of 16 in this building, which is good. So that means obviously when we rest, we can go up to even further and further, to the point where you can have like hours of like rested, like sort of restedness, if that's what you call it. But anyway, we set out on our next objective to go to the Queen's tomb. So obviously we had to jump off the spire and get a good glide in, because not only is it fun, it also, we get further quicker, and it's better than running around everywhere and running out of stamina after 10 metres. But on the way we find another flame shrine. I believe we've been to this one before, but every time you go back, I think every time you log out and re-log into the game, all the enemies respawn, and so do all the resources outside of any of your altars. Anyway, we came across this enemy camp and we decided, let's sneak attack this motherfucker. He needed it. 495 damage on a sneak attack is really good. But anyway, we had more enemies to deal with, and it's always good to get them killed. It's good XP, as well as finding, valuable resources that we may need. There was wolves, there was ones with bloody, I don't even know what they are. Are they guns, are they bows, are they a mix of both? I don't know, but either way, we made sure that we killed them nice and quick. Obviously, at this point, I decided the best way I could, fight a lot of these enemies is to keep at a decent range and use my wand. My wand was just very powerful, and there wasn't many enemies that were like, sort of like resisting the wand attacks, because a lot of the ones I got were fire wands, and any fire damage just seems to, kill enemies really easy. But as you can see then, at the top right, we had a health bar pop up, and that actually is a boss bar. So actually on the top of this rock here, there is a boss, and I mean, he's not anything scary. He doesn't come down from that big rock, he's stuck up top. But, he's not the easiest to deal with, but he's not the most difficult, but he is a fun little boss you can do. But before we dealt with him, obviously we had to kill all the enemies that were at the bottom, so we didn't have, the boss as well as a bunch of these trying to kill us. But we eventually made our way to the boss, and we made sure to get a few good fireballs off straight away, but he threw poison at us. And lucky enough, I don't know how they didn't hit, but somehow we missed the first few before getting hit, you know, with a few afterwards. And, you know, he isn't the strongest from a distance, but I made the mistake of getting close thinking I could do, you know, a lot of damage. And I mean, he nearly killed me with one hit. And the first thing I did was like, let's run. Let's just get away. You know, let's heal and let's try and just get away. But that did not work. I should have used a healing spell, but I had no mana from using my fireballs in the beginning. And look how close we were. Literally, you know, a couple more hits and he would have been dealt with. But we came back and we were determined to kill him this time. And I tried out the ice bolts and these seemed a lot more effective on him. And somehow I managed to find a weird glitch spot. So I was sort of stuck here and I was able to fire my wand extremely quick and take no damage. And then it glitched out a little bit more and I ended up in some weird, I don't know, hands in the air, waving around like you just don't care position. And then I managed to get out. I thought I was going to be stuck and have to start the fight again. But somehow he managed to hit me and let me out of the weird situation I was stuck in before we quickly managed to kill him. And that meant now we were able to make the improved grappling hook. Obviously, we're going to do that at a later date, but he did drop a good staff for us, a root staff. I mean, look at that, 20 power compared to 17 power. It was going to be a lot better. So obviously we had to carry on checking what there was, and we did actually find a Ring of Endless Life as well, which is a legendary ring that gives us lifesteal. And obviously we want that, so it means obviously we've got a 3% chance of when we damage an enemy, we steal 3% of their life. Well, I think it means that. Now I've said that, I don't know. Either way, we steal a bit of life, and we got a 3% chance of it. But anyway, that is still good. And then we enter this fucking stupid annoying cave or catacombs or whatever it is, which took me so long to press all 4 buttons to open up the door. We went through and we dealt with the initial enemies, but not only did I do that, I made the most stupid mistake I've made, I think, playing this game, and I don't even know how I did it. Somehow, whilst fighting one of the enemies, I managed to turn around, sit down and just completely quit the game. And you're going to see it in a second. I mean, I made a bunch of lockpicks. I was like, yeah, this is great. Oh, let me deal with this enemy that's going to come up. And somehow sat down and quit the game. Absolutely confused. But I opened back the game and we started back at the home. But I thought, you know what? I need a little bit of break before I go back in there. So I thought, there's a quest just next to it. Let's go and do that. That'll be a little bit more fun right now than getting stressed over having to do the whole thing again, losing all my lockpicks, not having any metal on me, and not being able to make any more. On the way there, we did level up to level 6 by killing a level 9 mob, and then this is the point where we start going, you know what? We need to start putting points into intelligence. We want to be able to do more magic damage, as well as having more mana. Obviously, we were liking the feel of the magic a lot more than the melee attacks, and you take quite a bit of damage, and you know the dodging isn't always the best. And you know, we're thinking, let's become like this, you know, overpowered battle mage. It seems like the best way to do it. But anyway, we searched through this whole house, looking for everything we can find, hoping for some good loot. And I mean, we had to go all the way to the roof to actually be able to open up the door in the basement that got the mortar that we needed. So that wasn't too bad, I suppose, because we did find some good loot on the way, but nothing too crazy. A lot of it I just salvaged for the money you get from it, so we was actually able to upgrade our other weapons when it came to it. But anyway, we had to go down into the basement, into a shrouded area to actually get the mortar, and there was not really any enemies. It was quite simple. The worst part about this mission was just getting there, because it was so far away. But once we had collected everything, it was quite easy just to make our way out, and we decided to head back to the catacombs, where we had to go back through everything we've already gone through again. But you know what? This time we're not going to log out. This time we're going to get it done. And don't get me wrong, if you've done this one, you'll know it takes a little bit to find all the buttons. But once you get it, you're expecting something amazing. You just get like a bit of a better shield. It's nothing crazy. But we explore through, finding all these places we can blow stuff up and make our way through and fight all these enemies, trying to, you know, running around in circles, trying to find these buttons. And some of them I feel like are just in stupid locations. But you know what, we're able to find one quite early on and we feel quite good. We're thinking this is going to be easy. Things are going to go our way. And then we see this one in the distance and I'm trying to hit it with my wand, but it just will not work. Sadly, I need a bow and arrow. And the bow that I found on one of the enemies I salvaged, so I had to find another one on an enemy. And this took quite a while because there isn't actually too many enemies in this place. I mean, there's a couple of screaming women, but once you kill them, there's not much more. But to be fair, with this place, the enemies weren't too difficult to deal with, and once we found a way through, it was easy to navigate. It was just finding these buttons and where they actually were. We were able to find one here and actually able to hit it with our wand, so that wasn't too bad. And we knew where another one was. Obviously, it was up high and we had no way of opening it. But lucky enough, we were able to find this door, open it up and find the last button after about 20-30 minutes of looking. Yes, that does seem like a long time, but it was just not the easiest thing to do, as there was just obviously such a big place to look and so many different ways you could go. But we found it, and then we decided to pick up the bow that we've got from an enemy and actually make the final shot so we could hit the button and get the door open. And once obviously we'd made our way through, we looted our new shield. I mean, the shield looks nice, and I'm not complaining. It's a free shield at the end of the day. But, I mean, yeah, it gives a bit more health, but 7 block, it's not really that good. I mean, if it didn't look good, I'd be fuming, but the fact that it looks good makes it a little bit worth it. So at this point, we were closing in on our 100 days. So what we decided to do was empty all our inventory, place the mortar down, speak to the people we needed to speak to, so then we could actually get them moved into our new base, because this base just wasn't it anymore. We decided, you know what, it isn't fitting our needs. With our new house, we're able to have, somewhere good, we were able to rest, we had everything we needed, as well as a different area to place the people, so they weren't just in a little shack, all stuck together. So obviously we get back to our new house and we start placing down all our people. Obviously we put them in each corner thinking, you know what, this kind of looks cool, they look like they're in a good position here. And then once we had them placed down, we obviously had a few items that were necessary for their crafting to place down as well. So we had to go back to our base, pick them up, like the forge, the kiln, and a bunch of other stuff, and place them down. It was just a lot of back and forth at this point. This took a few days of just back and forth, fast travel, place down, do whatever we needed to do, as well as emptying out chests and then putting them back down. It was, you've done it before, we've all done it, we've all moved, a base before. It takes a long time to do. But after we get everything in, obviously I had the last chest that I needed to place, and do not worry, I do fix it. I know it's the wrong way, I do end up fixing it. And at this point I thought, you know what, what's better than spending our last few days in this game than going to get this eternal spell finally. I mean, we've been wanting this for a while, so why don't we go get it now? Let's fly over there and get what we need, and on the way let's see what we discover. Obviously we find a flame shrine, that is always good. And then we jump off here and we're into sort of a new area. We can see where we're heading just off in the distance, I'm feeling good, things are going well. But boy, do they take a turn for the worse, because I am just an idiot. I'm an idiot sandwich. It's exactly what I am. All this was going great until we got into the Shrouded area. Few enemies, I deal with them. I can do this. But then I discover the red area again. These red lava-looking floors that you're not meant to touch because you die really quick. And I got stuck and I died. And it wasn't just once, it was multiple times. But not only was it annoying that I died, look where it put me back. Straight back here. And then I had to go all the way back again. And every time I died, because it happened multiple times, I had to do that. This took so many days just trying to get my stuff back. Just trying to make it, because I kept dying. I mean, look, my stuff is stuck there and I'm like, what can I do? So I go down, I'm like, right, I'll grab it, I'll make it, it'll be safe. No, we fall. We fall in again, and we die. We grab our stuff, great, but we die. And I'm thinking, great, we'll get it this time, things will be great. You know what, we're going to go through, this is it. We don't need to die anymore. Yeah. I ran out of stamina and I didn't realise. How stupid can I actually be? Why do I keep dying like this? But anyway, we are where we need to be. We're ready to get our eternal spell, so we make our way in. And, it's just like an underground cave. It's not actually anything amazing. I was hoping for a bit more of, like a magic-looking place to get an eternal spell, but it just seemed to be, randomly at the end of this, random cave. a lot of this, I feel like they could have done a lot better. The designs, or maybe, you know, certain things in certain areas. If it's going to be a magic quest, you know, let's go somewhere where there's some magic. Let's not, you know, get an eternal spell out of, you know, a stone coffin. It makes zero sense to me. But you know what? The game designers did what the game designers did. You know, who am I to complain other than someone that's just playing this game? But anyway, we've got our eternal spell. We're feeling strong, and we see where we are, and we haven't got much time left, and we need a way out of this shroud so we can fast travel. So obviously we find an area we can fast travel and head back home. Once we was home, I only had one thing on my mind: getting our improved grappling hook. I felt like this was something that would actually make a lot of sense for us to have now, and we were quite close to everything we needed to get. Shroud Liquid, as you can see, you can just run around tapping E and you pick it all up really easily. And again, the Shroud cords don't really take too much to build. And I thought, you know what, let's just get it done. Obviously, we had a few enemies that try and rush us, but they're easy enough to deal with. Obviously, we had to deal with a bunch of these for this tower for like the 5th time, because every time I wanted to get out the shroud, I'd go to this one tower, and these ones would always rush out and try and jump me, but I'm just too powerful for them. So I mean, like, enemies don't kill me, my own stupidity kills me. But we decide, let's glide back and let's get our new grappling hook built, because we are ready. We build the shroud core, it doesn't take much, and then we go over to the carpenter, which makes no sense how he's making the improved grappling hook as a carpenter. But anyway, we make it and we get it equipped, and we now just have a better one. It means it uses just less stamina and stuff. And then we improve our new staff that we got, because obviously we want that to be as strong as possible. We then decide there's an elixir well nearby, let's go to it, and hopefully, you know, well, our last few days are able to get this finished, as well as maybe even going to get the farmer. So we fast travel over to the spire, and then we jump off and obviously glide all the way over, because nobody enjoys walking in this game. Nobody enjoys walking in real life. But anyway, on the way, we discover another flame shrine, and obviously we want to get the spark from it, so we collect that and carry on with our journey to go further. But we discover another camp. Obviously, every time we see these, there's a bunch of enemies. There's always, you know, some loot. It's not always the best, but we're still going to grab it anyway because we are loot goblins. So we go around and we deal with the rest of these enemies that are here. Our new shield is feeling good. We're able to parry a lot easier. But also our eternal spell is also feeling quite powerful. We're doing a lot more damage than we have done before. And obviously, again, we're not going to run out of charges with it. So hopefully we can get an eternal fire spell at some point, because the fireballs are obviously... Everyone knows fire's better than ice. If you know, you're going to free someone, well, they're just going to, you know, melt. But anyway, we break into this house and we look for loot. We ain't messing about. We ain't knocking down doors, you know, asking, you know, do you want to donate money to fucking donkeys in need? We're looking for your loot. We want everything. Get a new wand. It's not as good as what we've got, just purely because ours is epic, meaning it's got different stats and different skills on it that mean, you know, it'll take less mana, or it'll have like mana leech on. So it's always good to look out for the better rarities. Even if they do a little bit less damage, once you boost them, you could end up having a weapon that's a lot better than just, say, a common one. But at this point, we had the full camp cleared, and we just carried on exploring a bit further. We were quite close to the farmer, but as well as the elixir well. So on discovering this and dealing with the enemies, we actually leveled up again, which is always good. We are now level 7, and I mean, the leveling is quite slow. So level 7, you know, within the amount of days we've played, is not too bad. But anyway, we deal with these enemies and we make our way into the elixir well. And this one, it was a little bit of a pain in the ass. I mean, it's the hardest one we've done so far, but obviously we are getting further and further into the game, and things aren't going to get easier, they're only going to get harder. Obviously, we were now getting stunned as well by the enemies. They were able to actually, like, stun us and, you know, send us a bit wobbly for a little bit. So then they were able to do a lot of damage on us, or we was able to get, you know, not have the time to dodge. So it was a little bit annoying that the enemies were getting smarter. And, yeah, I fell again. I mean, like, what do I say? But we return back and we are taking out our anger that we are stupid and keep dying on these stupid bugs. You know, level 9 now, you know, they're taking more than one hit. These were getting annoying. But we, you know, we're like, let's just go for it. You know, what are we going to do? We're going to be able to deal with these easily. No, this was a mistake. I mean, there were so many enemies. The boss as well, he was hitting hard. He was also just sprinting after me with his big weapon, and he had such a long reach, it was unreal, and my stamina just never seemed to regenerate quick enough. But if it wasn't for using the wand, I feel like we would have been worse off. The wand was just so powerful. It is such a powerful weapon to have. I mean, it makes it so much easier to fight any enemies because you're able to just keep such a decent distance away from them without having to, be on top and get blown up and then get a massive hit like that and die. But we respawned and we were back, and lucky enough, because we killed a bunch of enemies last time, there wasn't really many to deal with. And we decided, let's give our explosive balls a go on the boss. Are they able to actually do a bit of damage to him? And they were, but also they were able to take down the shroud, like, tree thingy or whatever it's called. What's the root? That's it. They were able to take down the root and deal with this boss nice and easily. We still took, obviously, a bit of damage, but we weren't really worrying as much, and it was a lot easier once we got rid of the root, because there wasn't shrouders around us, and we weren't having a bunch of random things spawn and try and kill us. I mean, it was good that we got a shroud core from that, but other than that, the loot was just not the best. We still had a few enemies to deal with in the place, but once we dealt with them, we made our way out, and we just sort of carried on with travelling even further, and we were going to go on a mission to go get this farmer, because we thought, farming at some point could be useful. Like I said before, multiple different foods is always good to have. You can't just eat the same food, you do need different types. But whilst we had our skill points, we decided to get arcane deflection, meaning when we parried, we were actually able to regenerate some mana. But obviously before we left, we had to get our stuff back, and oh my god, this took so long. This was, again, days spent trying to get our stuff. Every time we'd try and get it, we'd fall in and we'd either die or we'd have to try and hop off it and land on the side thing. It was so annoying, but once we finally got it, I felt so good, and I was like, I'm getting out of here, and I'm never coming to anything with this reds thing ever again. I mean, look at it, look how close I was getting to die, and every time it's like a second away, and I managed to survive. I don't know how, but who cares? I managed to make my way out, and we were not dealing with this again. We were gone. We were up that ladder, and we were out of this place. It's just so annoying that I literally am my own worst enemy when it comes to these games. I just end up dying so easily just to my own stupidity. But anyway, as you can see, we're about 150 metres away from saving the farmer. So we make our way over to the vault, and obviously there's enemies to deal with, but we are not too bothered about really dealing with them. You can just run past them. Them ones are slow, they don't really do out anyway. But we make our way in, and this one isn't as difficult as the other ones. This one is just more of a maze. Few enemies to deal with, but more it's, don't die. So we have to hardcore parkour our way around this place. There's a lot of climbing, a lot of jumping, big gaps, and this is going to be quite simple for 99% of the player base. But for me, obviously, you can imagine how it went. I kept forgetting about stamina. I would try and glide across or, use my grappling hook, and I would die. And it's just literally at this point here. No stamina, dead. How could I be so stupid? Again, not enough stamina, dead. What is wrong with me? How am I, this bad at games? I just don't know. But you know what? It's fun. Yeah, we'll say that. But this was, again, just a series of buttons to press. You press them all, you open up the door, and then we were able to actually go and save the farmer from the weird... I don't even know what they're in. Kind of reminds me a bit of, the start of, Fallout 4. The cryo chamber ones. It's a bit like that. You save them from them, and then you can, summon them at your base. So obviously there was no enemies in this one, so it was obviously a lot easier if you actually looked at the screen and saw that, you didn't have enough stamina to make it. But that was the farmer saved. So we decided to have a look what was nearby and saw that it was the carpentry camp. So we thought, let's make our way over there. So obviously we had a bit of distance to cover and we had a few enemies to deal with. So we dealt with them, used our new Eternal Ice Bolt, and things were feeling good. Obviously mana was still running out quite quick. But because we were putting our points into intelligence, our wand and both our staff was doing quite a lot of damage to all enemies. And we actually found this weird looking cave. And we went in thinking, is this going to give us some good loot? It didn't really. I thought this was going to be like, you know, something cool to find, and really it was just this weird glowing thing. I only got one luminescent or luminous growth from the whole thing. I was mining it for ages thinking, what's going on? And then this thing threw a bloody orange ball on my head. It's a level 11, by the way, so it's like 4 levels higher, and I've got this, whatever this is, on my head. I look fucking daft. Hopefully my helmet, you know, saved me a little bit, but still, we dealt with that and we carried on even further, and we ended up in another shrouded area. And, you know, this was the furthest we've gone so far. We were actually quite, you know, high up on the map. We were closing in on the area that we actually couldn't go to. We did discover these weird looking crawling things that took, you know, so much damage to kill. These are level 11s with a weird health bar, so I don't know if they were like sort of like a harder thing to kill, but lucky enough, you know, they were so easy to stay away from. All you had to do was, you know, use your staff or your wand and keep a distance, and you just took no damage. They didn't really do much. They had a little charge, but they were so easy to read, you could just, you know, do a ranged attack and you were okay. But once we dealt with that, we looted it up and we carried on going even further. This actually dropped like some venomous glands, which I've seen in a crafting recipe that were going to be useful in the future. But we came across another flame sanctum, and these are obviously always good to get because we want the sparks. So obviously once we cleared our inventory out a little bit, because we was full, we were able to grab the sparks from here, and this actually gave us 2. So I don't know if it gave us 2 because it's a further away one or whatever it was. But then we reached sort of, you know, the highest point we can go to. Not only were the enemies sort of quite higher than us, also we had the red shroud to deal with, and we couldn't go into that without dying instantly. So we sort of realised that, you know, we only had like a day left at this point. We may as well deal with these enemies and make our way back home. Obviously, we still had the farmer to place down. We needed to summon the farmer, as well as a few random quests we had probably done along the way, or started by picking up some random book. You know how it is. These people want to talk to us all the bloody time about something daft. So we check what we actually need to upgrade any of our things before speaking to the hunter, who gives us a test of skill, but easy enough. She's saying, do you want, you know, get some animal fur? We've already got it. You know, that's a, you know, an early game quest that we have already done. And then Balthazar, again, telling us about how we can enter the shroud because of the flame. Like, this is old news, mate. Like, we're past that now. We are into, you know, further parts of this game. So I don't know if it was a little bit of a bug telling us later things, but I don't really know. Anyway, we decided we needed some wax and honey. So we went round, knocking down beehives, collecting everything we needed. And there were quite a few around our base. So we were able to grab, actually, you know, quite a lot and more than we needed, so we had excess, because it's always good, you know, to have your inventory or your chest full of stuff that you might need for the future, because there is nothing worse than just having nothing in them and having to collect stuff every single time you wanted to craft anything. We then make our way into the shroud to get some shroud wood, because again, different wood, need it for recipes, and we decided to get quite a bit, and it's not really too difficult to get. Obviously, you know, we make sure we grab as much as we can, because again, we don't want to be running back and forth trying to get this all the time, because that is just pointless. So we make our way out and we decide to clear our inventory, but also gather everything that we needed so we could improve the flame one more time. We sort of just needed like random stuff and, you know, stuff that we collect on the way, like boss heads or whatever. But before we did that, we placed down the farmer and spoke to her and listened to whatever she wanted to tell us. And obviously we had to have a look what she could craft, and she could make popcorn, so, you know, things were looking good for us. And then we were ready to strengthen the flame. So we strengthened it and we got it to level 3, meaning obviously we can expand further, we can go further places, and also our attributes will boost just that little bit. And now this is it, we're at the end of the 100 days. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you hit that sub button, it helps the channel massively, and we're trying to hit 2k by the end of the year. If you did enjoy, make sure you like and comment, and I will see you in the next video.